Welcome into the Take the North podcast presented by Odyssey. I am Adam Studzinski. I'm alongside Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune, who was at Soldier Field, where the Bears laid a beatdown on the Panthers earlier today. 36-10 was the final. And Dan, I don't know if there's much else to say about this one other than this was a pretty standard ass kicking by the Bears over the Panthers.
Yeah. No question about it. I had said on Friday that I expected this to be a no anxiety game for the Bears, and to their credit, outside of that first early long touchdown run that they gave up, they controlled the football game. They showed the Carolina Panthers how much work they still have left to become a competitive football team again. And you feel sort of sorry for the Panthers in some ways, because they are not only bad, they're beaten up, and they were losing bodies left and right within this game. They came into the game already very injury depleted on defense, and they just had no answers for what the Bears offered. And I think that's a good sign, Adam, that the Bears were able to take care of business in a game like this and not let them hang around and really conjure up any sort of hope at all in the second half. By the time you got to halftime, the game was over, and the Bears never left the door open a crack.
Yeah, this one was, I think that as soon as that Bears second touchdown happened, you were feeling pretty good about where this was heading. And then once the Bears got up 2 scores, Carolina pretty much lost the only good aspect of their team, which is the ability to run the football. And Andy Dalton was never going to be able to throw them back into this game. He's just against this Bears defense and with their depleted weapons. I mean, they were down to, you mentioned the Panthers kept losing bodies. Not only did they come into this game without Adam Thielen already, then they lost their good rookie, or a rookie who's been showing improvement anyway, receiver Xavier Legette. And so they just had nothing going after that.
We were getting, we were getting announcements in the press box over and over again of new players that were injured, questionable return, doubtful return, offensive linemen, left and right. They were going down. And you're right. They didn't have many answers for what the Bears had today. Again, I think this is a huge step for the Bears to be able to take these games and put them in their back pocket, without having to sweat for them. It's really, really nice to have a win like that, particularly when you're going overseas next week and you're going to need all the energy you can conjure to put forth a good performance next week. So credit to Matt Eberflus, credit for the players. Everybody came ready today, and the results showed it.
Everything. This is about as close to a tune-up game as you can get in the NFL. I mean, especially offensively, the Bears got a lot of good things going here. So as we dive into the nitty-gritty of this, one of the big conversations, Dan, coming into this game was, can DJ Moore and Caleb Williams get on the same page? Well, I think they did that today. DJ Moore had 5 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both his touchdowns were long touchdowns. One he was wide open on. The other one was a great throw and catch between Caleb and DJ. So I think we can put that storyline to rest for at least a week, because that was a great connection today for the Bears.
That was the centerpiece of my column at ChicagoTribune.com, was the way that connection finally got unlocked. And you saw the emotion that DJ Moore uncorked after the second touchdown. Final minute of the first half, gets that deep ball from Caleb Williams in the north end zone here, and gets up with a scream that was reminiscent of what Caleb let out when he was drafted by the Bears on draft night, right? Like, it was just pure organic emotion coming out, like, thank God. And Caleb said, they got back to the sideline and they got together and said, finally, we hit on one of those. Really a tremendous play in a lot of different ways, because the Bears had 3 weapons spread out to the right in I think it was Keenan, Cole, and Rome. And so you've got DJ isolated to the left, and Caleb made a check pre-snap to kind of manipulate the safety over to the other side of the field. And he knew he had DJ in one-on-one in man coverage. And as long as he could win off the release, which DJ did against Mike Jackson, you're going to throw that ball 100 times out of 100, and you're going to expect DJ to catch it 80, right? And a really, really pretty throw today, particularly on a day where the winds were gusty and unpredictable. And Caleb put it right on the money. DJ made the play, and you had yourself a 27-7 lead at halftime that was insurmountable.
Yeah. And it was weird. Since you brought up the wind, well, I want to go ahead and touch on that. What was going on with the wind today? Because Caleb talked in his postgame presser about how the wind was affecting his throws. He said that the first throw of the game that he made, which was a miss to Keenan Allen, which was damn near a pick 6, he said that the wind actually took that throw and messed with it a little bit. So what the heck was going on down there today?
Well, there's no question. I mean, listen, like, it was almost like cute to hear Caleb Williams go through this for the first time. Like those of us who have been to Soldier Field hundreds of times, we know that this place can be weird sometimes. The wind is blowing north for 5 minutes. The next minute, somehow it's blowing southwest, and you've just got all these different twists and turns and gusts. And it was one of those fall days today where it was going in a lot of different directions. A couple plays before Caleb hit the deep touchdown pass to DJ Moore late in the first half, he probably had a longer touchdown to Cole Kmet, but he threw a ball down the right sideline that kind of broke funny on him. And Cole said it was like a slider coming at him when he was trying to make that catch. It ended up being a back shoulder throw that neither of them had any intention of being a back shoulder throw. Cole, to his credit, made the catch, but that was the kind of day it was here where you kind of had to, knife some balls through the wind. The Bears did finish the day with 6 completions of at least 20 yards. That's a big step in the right direction for a passing attack that hadn't been able to unlock the explosive plays. I think, Adam, as we go deeper into this game, we do have to continually acknowledge that this was the Panthers. They came into the day horrible on defense. They've been beat up. They remained horrible, and they got more beat up. And so you have to keep the perspective, but the Bears don't have to apologize for that at all. You just take what's in front of you and you capitalize on it. So in the small picture, you say, kudos to the Bears, right? Like, great job taking care of your business today of getting your offense humming. I think it was 424 total yards for the day. You had everything working, and you got some of those explosive plays unlocked. The degree of difficulty is going to get harder the further you go ahead, but it wasn't today. And so you don't have to stop and play a what-if game if a better opponent was here. The Panthers weren't a good opponent, and the Bears took advantage of it.
Look, I mean, this is something that in the last couple of years, we've looked at games and we said, hey, this is a game that the Bears should be able to win easily. And they've somehow made it a close game. And so it's nice to see that, hey, the Bears are good enough to beat the crap out of an inferior opponent. And that's exactly what they did today. So that in itself is progress. And you were right. The Bears did have 424 total yards on the day. I mean, look, you said it. It is the Panthers. They're bad. They're, especially defensively, they weren't good to start the year, and they've lost a lot of key players. There's a lot of context there, of course. But at the end of the day, Caleb Williams became the first Bears quarterback to throw for 300+ yards 2 times in a season ever.
Yeah.
Like, that is so, and he's now on pace for 3,700 yards this season. So look, like, don't apologize for that. That's what I say. Like, take those 300 yards and go off to London and look to keep getting better.
No question about it. 20 for 29, 304, 2 touchdowns, a passer rating of 126.2, and interception free again, right? Like, so that's that turnover column that you circled a 0 on. But I remember back in the winter when I was gathering all the intel on Caleb Williams leading up to the draft, trying to figure out what he was about. And I had someone say to me, it was a sort of a backhanded shot at Justin Fields and said, I guarantee you one thing, he's going to have more than one 300-yard passing game in his time with the Bears and in his rookie season. And here we are 5 weeks into the year, and Caleb's had 2 in the last 3 games. And so you see the production starting to come along. You see signs that he can throw the football with the best of them in this league. And now it's just about gaining experience, adding to the library in your head of what you've seen from defenses, and continuing to build on it, because I think we all agree that things are moving in the right direction. You saw some things in the screen game today that I thought were really nice. Right. At least one to DeAndre Swift, another to Cole Kmet that went for big yardage. And you say, man, like, if you can start to unlock those explosive plays in so many different ways, now all of a sudden you've got defenses really on their heels, and you can dictate the game from there.
Well, and speaking of being on their heels, one of the best things I think I did see from Shane Waldron in this offense today was their use of no huddle. When they smelled blood in the water for Carolina, they got into that no huddle, and they just kept going and going and going. And you could tell at points in that first half, Carolina was gassed. I mean, their defense was absolutely running on fumes, and it was still the first half. So, like, I really liked that adjustment. And so this is something we've seen the last couple of weeks now. Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams getting into the no huddle and just keeping their foot on the pedal when they get momentum moving down the field. Yeah.
Well, listen, like, whether it's this week or during the bye, I do want to take a look at where the Bears' offensive penalty numbers rank, because it feels like 90% of their penalties are by their offense. The defense isn't committing a lot of penalties. The offense is still doing things that really throw you off. They get in a short yardage situation today and they had 2 men in motion at the same time. And you're like, well, this is sloppy. Then you get down near the goal line and you did another one of those cutesy plays from the 1 yard line where you're like, well, like just run a bread and butter play. Why do we have to keep harping on this? Like, don't have 2 backs and try to be running gadgetry. This defense you're playing against is terrible, and they're outmanned, and you don't have to out scheme them. You just got to out execute them. So leave that cute stuff and that fancy stuff out for now and just master your bread and butter. That's just a long way of saying that they're going to go through the correction tape in a good mood on Monday before they get on the plane to London. But there are going to be things in there where you go, man, like that's got to be better if you're going to start to contend, particularly within a division that is obviously proving itself right now to be really, really tough.
Oh, yeah. The Vikings moved to 5-0 today. Before we started recording this podcast, the Packers are on their way to being 3-2, and the Lions are, what are the Lions? 4-1, right? So, the division's really good, and it's going to be a heated battle the last half of the season. And so you mentioned like a couple of those plays that the Bears ran that were weird. There was a 4th and 1 they ran that I didn't really like their play call there in the first half when they were up 14-7, and they had this weird split back thing, and they sent DeAndre Swift in motion.
That's the one I'm talking about.
That was a weird one. Yeah.
What are you doing there?
Yeah, that was one of the few plays this game where I'm like, oh, come on, you don't have to do that stuff. Like you just do the thing that you did a couple times today, which is bring Doug Kramer in and just run up the gut. Like you don't have to overthink this.
Roschon Johnson, he's become a pretty reliable short yardage back, and you just get him going north and south, and you let him use his strength there. But still, a lot to build on in this game. We'd be remiss not to talk about the defense, but you look at all the guys that contributed today. I was going through this after the game. Here's the list of guys who had at least a half sack in the game: Kyler Gordon, Andrew Billings, DeMarcus Walker, Austin Booker, Javon Dexter. Then you get the interception from Kevin Byard. You get forced fumbles by Brisker and Edmonds. You get recoveries by Dexter and Gordon. A lot of contributions from a lot of different people today. And after giving up that big touchdown run early in the game to Chuba Hubbard, they locked down and only gave up 3 points the rest of the way. Played really, really solid. This group is really, really become the engine of this team as we expected they would be as the offense finds its footing. And really, really a nice performance today on the whole against Andy Dalton and company in Carolina.
Yeah, we talked about during the week about how the one thing you have to worry about is Carolina's run game, and you said like that run by Chuba Hubbard was like, man, like they need to be able to lock that down, and they did. I don't want to say they were like perfect defending the run, but they played really good complementary football, I think is what you could say, defensively and offensively. The defense got on their stuff, and largely in that Carolina touchdown, they had a short field to deal with, so that was a little weird. They had a bad run fit on Chuba Hubbard's touchdown run, but after that, offense got them backed up. The offense got Carolina's offense backed up, I should say, by being able to move the football, and they put points on the board and points on the board and points on the board, and the defense was able to just feast on a horrible Carolina passing game.
Well, and I do think in the big picture of the season, the response drive the Bears had in the first quarter was huge because when you have an uncharacteristic letdown by the defense and you do give up that 38-yard touchdown run, you're going, okay, like, are we going to live through a first half where everybody in Soldier Field's pulling their hair out, or do you have an offense now that can respond and say, we've got this? We understand you guys have carried us for a long time, defense. We're gonna regroup, and they go right down the field, 70 yards in 7 plays, and didn't get to a third down on the drive. That's efficient football. That's productivity, and ultimately it ends with DJ Moore's first touchdown of the day, which was a really, really nice route combination with Keenan Allen coming across essentially screening off J.C. Horn in man coverage, and then Rome Odunze takes the safety out of the play, and really Caleb's just got to see it, and he throws to DJ Moore, who's as open as DJ Moore is ever going to be on a football field. And DJ's credit, he does a nice job of figuring out where he is on the field, tiptoeing down the right sideline, getting back inside and scoring the touchdown. And you were like, okay, 7-7, just like that. You're right back in the football game, and you don't have to bring worry into the building today.
Yeah, that was a nice exhale drive, I think, not just for the team, but everyone watching the game. It's like, oh God, don't do this. Don't make us sweat this out. And after that play, you're like, okay, like this, they're going to be fine, because clearly the Panthers defense wasn't going to be able to hold up to what the Bears were doing today. And so one last thing I wanted to bring up before we get to our game balls and some 3-word reviews here. Caleb said in his post-game presser something I thought was really interesting about how the offensive leaders got together after their Thursday practice and said, hey, we suck today. We need to be better. And so I just thought that was a neat little note, because this is now 2 weeks in a row we've heard about, this was not maybe like I don't want to say disastrous, as big a story, I would say, as what it was the week prior, where we heard about the offensive guys meeting with Shane Waldron. But this was the offensive players saying, hey, we need to be better. That wasn't good enough today. And you fast forward 3 days to get into the game, and they put up 36 points.
Yeah, Studs, listen, you've heard me for a month now just talk about how confident I am in the leadership of this group. And it's showing on both sides of the ball where they have guys that can get things reined in quickly and that don't tolerate sloppiness and aren't going to sit around and just let, laziness and lethargy and whatever else can creep into the building weigh them down. And so when you have that level of locked in urgency, and when your leaders can get it from everybody around them, then turn it into results, it's important. And so, it's notable that happened. It's also notable that Caleb brought it up afterwards, because I think it does provide sort of a vocal announcement to the people in that locker room and the people outside that we're gonna handle our business, and we're gonna take control when things need to be taken control of. And so, to their credit, they've done a nice job of that. Look, like, this team has come a long way in the last 2 weeks. Again, the competition is certainly part of the context here, and we can't lose sight of that. The Jaguars are going to be feisty when they get over to London next week, and you're going to have to play a better football game than you did today. But you're there, right? Like, you're there now with an opportunity to put together a winning streak, with an opportunity to create some relevance for your season. And so just keep taking every little step one at a time. And I do think that's one thing, Cole Kmet said it after the game, that he's really appreciated Caleb's ability to be patient with himself in understanding that as a rookie, you're not going to get it all right away, but also not using that as a crutch. Like, oh, I'm a rookie, I'm not going to get it all right away. No, he's got a little bit of competitive urgency and edge to him that resonates with the guys around him. And that's really cool to have 5 games into your rookie season.
Yeah. You can tell that Caleb has a really healthy perspective on everything that is happening. He understands that he needs to perform for this team to get where they need to go. So the last thing I think that, again, before we get into our game balls and stuff, like, I think we haven't mentioned yet today the Bears-Panthers trade that made a lot of what the Bears did today possible. I can't imagine. I found myself in the second half trying to put myself in the perspective of a Panthers fan, or like someone on that other sideline thinking like, man, like, that's the guy that they took with our pick, and we basically gave Caleb Williams to them. And it has to be really frustrating to watch what the Bears have done with all that they gathered from that number 1 overall pick trade.
Well, 2 thoughts on that. Number 1, we got to see Bryce Young today. Not the way that Bryce Young was expected to return to the football field, with his team down 4 scores and just kind of mopping up in garbage time so that Andy Dalton could just take a little senior citizens rest on the sideline for a little while. The other part of this is, I think if you're a fan of the Carolina Panthers, you just kind of checked out and went and did something with your Sunday afternoon. Like, this is not going to be a football team that's worth your attention for a while, and it's become very evident. And so, like, the level of defeatism that must be circulating through Charlotte and the surrounding areas because of the way that this team has mismanaged its situation it's got to be really painful. And the Bears, meanwhile, seem to be on a moving walkway towards competitive relevance, and that's where you want to be. And a lot of that is because the Panthers allowed them to make strides forward faster than they otherwise might have been able to. And again, the gift of Caleb Williams could be one that gives for more than a decade if his development continues along the arc. Long way to go on that topic. We'll obviously revisit that again at the end of the month when the Commanders are on the docket, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of topic about the state of rookie quarterbacks, but certainly the Bears right now have to feel a lot better than the Panthers do.
Yeah, definitely. And the Commanders got another win today. They blew out the Browns, and Jaden Daniels wasn't perfect, but he had another good game. So, all right, let's get some 3-word. And of course, Dan, you always send out this tweet after games, 3-word reviews at Dan Wiederer on Twitter or X if you want to go send some more. So a common theme I found in here today, Dan, thank you, Panthers. Got a couple of those. Total team victory was a good one. Caleb keeps growing. Caleb keeps improving. And then another theme that I found here, that was fun. Several tweets saying that was fun. That was something that I found myself thinking after the game, like, man, that was a fun Bears game. And like we just haven't had a lot of that in the last couple of years. A game where in the fourth quarter you're just kind of sitting back and like, okay, cool, this is on cruise control and we can just relax.
There no anxiety to it, right? And I think that's the big part of this. Zach Davis chimed in with Caleb Williams. I like that he took one name.
Yes, I was going to bring that one up.
Words. That one was a good one for me. And then obviously again, like you said, the Carolina thank yous and the Carolina keeps giving. Common themes here that the Bears are really able to capitalize on, and hopefully the fun doesn't stop in the middle of October. Hopefully this is something where we're following a fun football team all the way through December and into January.
All right, last thing here. Let's give out some game balls, Dan. Do you want to go first or should I? It doesn't matter to me.
You can go first, and I'll pick up the end.
Well, a lot. You can go a lot of different directions with this one. So I'm gonna go very outside the box just because I don't know if we'll have another chance to do this. I'm going to give my game ball to Doug Kramer, who got to go in motion twice today. It actually might have been 3 times. So they brought Doug Kramer out as a fullback again today, and 2 times they used him to come in motion and absolutely kick the hell out of a cornerback on the other end of the line of scrimmage. I thought that was really cool. And then he did get called for a penalty, so maybe I actually forgot about that before I started doing the game ball thing. But
first clipping penalty I've seen called in 12 years.
Yeah, I haven't seen a clipping penalty in a really long time. I was like, okay, that's one you're not going to see very often. But I just because I think it's fun and it was a fun game, I'm going to give mine to Doug Kramer, who got to have a little more fun. And clipping penalty, what are you going to do? They don't call that very often.
I'm going to give a special acknowledgement to Bill Murray, who came in relief of Tevin Jenkins today instead of Nate Davis and played with an edge. We've been looking for somebody on the offensive line that brings a little bit of tenacity, and Bill Murray seemed to do that a little bit today. But I'm going to share my game ball between the 2 obvious guys here. It's Caleb Williams and DJ Moore, and it's the fact that they were together and on the same page and connecting in a way that we haven't seen in the downfield passing game through the first month of the season. And to feel the relief for both of them that they were able to get some things unlocked that probably lessens the weight of the pressure they've been feeling to get that thing unlocked, I think is really significant. DJ dropped the ball in the second half that would have added to their total. And I mean, listen, like where the defense was on that ball, if DJ catches it, that's at least 25 yards that we tack on that total. And he was kicking himself afterwards for not making that play. But it's certainly easier to kick yourself when you're walking out of here with a 100-yard game, 2 touchdowns, and a 26-point win. And so you felt the good vibes and the good moods of the players as they left Soldier Field tonight. And again, Studs, now they go on to London. Monday night departure for the Bears. They'll be back at Haugh really quickly. They'll get over to London on Tuesday. They have the players' day off, quote unquote, somewhere in London to get themselves acclimated. And then a typical week down there, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice leading up to the game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a week from today. Fun field trip for the Bears, and now we'll see what they can do with it.
And the Jags got their first win of the season against the Colts today. So they're coming in feeling a lot better about themselves, I'm sure. And I do like, before we get out of here, I really like that the Bears are leaving tomorrow on Monday and not. I remember the 20 season when they waited until like Thursday or something like that to leave. And it felt like that was a mistake, and they end up losing the game to an inferior opponent. So I like that they are like leaving tomorrow, get out there, get their body clocks right, and then that ideally your body clock won't be an issue by next Sunday.
I don't know what the science says in both directions, but I know that when I went in 2019 that I was a mess. I was a wreck adjusting to the time change, and the Bears left on the same timeline that we did, and they ended up playing a terrible first half. They were against the Raiders. Trubisky was out. Chase Daniel was playing quarterback, but I think they were shut out in the first half, and you were just like, are they even awake playing this game? It did not feel like a football team that came at that edge. So maybe the early departure gets them on that flow with the British time zone quicker than they normally would, and they can turn that into some results.
So we'll, of course, cover everything that we can leading up to that one. Dan, you're going to London, right? So when are you leaving?
Yeah, I won't be leaving until later in the week, so we'll have a chance. I'll be back a few days while they're practicing, and then I'll get over there. So we'll have a few episodes. A lot on the docket this week. Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren both scheduled to talk in the middle of the week this week. So when you hear from the general manager and the president, usually something comes out of that. We'll have some things to discuss out of that, and then it'll be taking inventory on what's going on in the UK as Bears Jaguars approaches.
It's interesting. I can't remember the last time the team president and the GM spoke midweek in a non-crisis moment. So yeah, that'll be they'll have some good things to talk about. So ideally. So all right, we'll go ahead and get out of here, Dan. Again, the Bears win this one against the Panthers 36-10. They go to London and take the Jaguars on next week. We will talk to you throughout the week. A lot of stuff coming your way. Download, listen, subscribe. Thank you for listening to Take the North, and we'll talk to you next time.
Great talk. See you out there.